It depends, it really varies. I think everybody's committee and your time of year is all effective. So it really,
Yeah.
really depends.
46.
And I like that, like, if these are good opportunities, right? Some of the most important
I don't know.
so, you know, I
But
have some
the four were appointed are all council members.
so it's very
They're all from council members. A lot of them are appointed.
the some can't even have there's some that some just
6:30. I'm going to start the webinar. You know that start.
no, please do. I was
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our June meeting. My name is Diana. I'm the chair of our Parks and Environment Committee. I think this is broken. Today, we're going to have a presentation from Drasana Hughes from the New York City Department of Environmental Protection. It's going to be a flooding 101 presentation. Go ahead and take it away. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to call roll first.
Evening, everyone. There is nobody joining us on Zoom, so I'm not going to give the instructions. Let's start with Diana Aguilar. Thank you. Sylvia Augusto. Esteban Chavez. Diana Gonzalez. Thank you. Nicole Huang. Daniel Kaminsky. Jeremy Kaplan. Aaron Keith. Paul Mack. Rosie Moda. Sam Sierra. You do not have a quorum. Would you please just sign in? Thank you.
Give me one moment, just working on getting the presentation up there. Okay. It's like all delayed. Yeah, let's give it a second. I'll just start briefly by introducing myself. So my name is Drasana Hughes, and I'm the new Brooklyn Borough Commissioner for DEP. So I started about 4 months ago. And in the process of taking on this new role, I've tried to speak to every single community board, all 18 in Brooklyn. And I'm very excited to be at this one in particular because I know climate issues and water and air and noise issues are very prescient in this community. And Jeremy, the district manager, has been amazing in raising concerns that he's dealt with in his tenure here and has taken me through some areas in the neighborhood. So usually the way that we do this is I give the presentation first. It's usually around 15 minutes. And then I find that the most valuable part of this is really getting to answer your questions and hearing your experiences. And hopefully this is one of many times I can come present to you all. Let's see. Great. I'm going to now just try to make it go full screen. Please go full screen. Okay, fantastic. Doesn't want me to go to the next slide. Okay. Okay, here it goes.
You have the choice of taking off the cap, but we have to capture it.
Okay. I hope it stays on this slide because I clicked it a lot to move. But so the first slide we like to start with is about our current climate and how it's changing. So New York City was recently reclassified as humid subtropical. And what that means is, from the perspective of the national government and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, we're being compared now to cities like Atlanta and Houston. Whereas we used to be compared to, more like Boston and Philly. And that's because of how hot the city's getting, because of how frequent our storms are. And we're also having periods of heavy drought as well. So because of our sea level rise and because of all the things we're experiencing as a city, we now get rainfall the way that a lot of southeastern cities do. And our sewers were not necessarily built for that reality. And so it's a challenge that we face at DEP and that we face as a city. And so we just like to start off the presentation with that so you can hear what we're doing as a city and what you can do as a homeowner and a resident of New York to kind of exist in this new and ever-changing reality. So the next slide talks about all the types of flooding that you should be concerned about or even just educated about as someone who lives in the city. And so there's 3 different types. One is stormwater, rain that comes from the sky. We all know what that is. 2 is coastal flooding, and that can come from natural sea level rise or it can be exacerbated by stormwater, and is something that's relevant for CB7 and can affect homeowners. And then the last is groundwater flooding. So everybody's home or building is on a groundwater table, and that table can be triggered or exacerbated by stormwater, by coastal flooding, and it can affect flooding in your homes and especially in basements. So we'll talk a little bit about why that's relevant to the sewers and kind of what the city is doing to combat that. So why does this matter from a sewer perspective? So 60% of New York City, including, I believe, almost all of CB7, is on a combined sewer system. So what that means is when you flush your toilet, when you wash and dry your clothes, when you rinse your hands in the sink, that water goes to the same place as water from a storm. And why is that important? On a normal day, on a dry day, on a day like today, it's not something you would notice. It wouldn't really matter. On a day when there's a lot of rain, heavy rainfall, specifically, we like to quote over 2 inches an hour. What happens is all of that rain is going to the same place and it could back up. And having wastewater and stormwater combined back up into your basement can be really scary, right? That's like raw sewage going into your basement, going into your bathtub, into your sink. And the reason why that happens is because we have combined sewers in most of New York City. So it's really bad. It can cause property loss. It can cause a lot of other issues. So there's things we're doing as a city to combat sewer backups. And there's also things you can do as a homeowner that I'll get into a little bit later in the presentation. So first, we'll just start with like, what is the city doing to combat climate change, to combat flooding, to combat sewer backups? So we have 3 kind of our main tools called gray, green, and blue infrastructure, which I'll get to in a second. And then there's real-time regulation things we can do to try to attack the problem once it's already occurred that I'll get to. So gray infrastructure is just a fancy way of saying the sewers. And why the sewers are really important is because of what I outlined before. Since we have this combined sewer system, they really are the first line of defense when we get massive rainfall. And they work in 98% of events. So a lot of the events you hear about are those 2%. But the 2% events are increasing in frequency because of climate change and because we're getting more storms like Sandy and Ida and things that are really putting pressure on our system. So like I said before, our sewer network is generally built to handle 1.5 to 1.75. I like to say 2 inches. If we're getting above 2 inches, you know that's a really serious storm. And once we get to that point, it can overwhelm the sewer. And so there's a lot of other things we're trying to do to help that, but we do recognize that our sewer system needs upgrades. And certainly there are a lot of areas that the rainfall is coming at an amount that the sewer is just not built for. And so our 10-year capital plan includes $9 billion for sewer system upgrades. And I know on 4th Avenue, there have even been a lot of sewer upgrades here in Sunset Park. So it's something that we continue to fight for. It's something that I continue to try to elevate community concerns when we feel like it's beyond anything a homeowner could do, anything green infrastructure could do. We just need to upgrade the sewer. So when you see construction workers with DEP everywhere, they might be upgrading the sewer so that we can handle rainstorms. And that's a big part of what we're doing. Second thing we're doing is called green infrastructure. So you see in these pictures up there, one is a rain garden. So you might see these little pits on the side of the road. They might have a tree in them, they might not. They'll say rain garden on the side, and we've built them all over Brooklyn. And this other picture is what we call the green infrastructure median. So you might see those in the middle of the road, and they might have plants or stones in them and a small grate inside. So what these do is they're supposed to catch water before it gets to the sewer. And that's great because we don't want the sewer system to hit capacity. We don't want sewage to back up in people's homes. And so if we build a lot of these all over Brooklyn, they can catch a lot of water, gallons and gallons of stormwater before it has to go to the sewer system. And they're nice to look at. Plants are really great for a billion reasons, including urban heat and island effect. And so we are working with elected officials and community boards to let communities know ahead of time when we are building more of these, but we've built a lot of this in Brooklyn already. The second thing is porous pavement. So this is another kind of green infrastructure, which is a special type of concrete roadway paving that can absorb water. So I'm going to show you guys a little video of what it looks like here quickly. So you can see normal concrete, if water comes on it, it would just sit there. But you can see in this one a little bit that it's absorbing the water into the pavement. So there's some areas for reasons of the utilities that are there, for the way flooding works in the community board, that we can't necessarily build a rain garden. You know, people say all the time, like, can I have a rain garden outside my house? Like, the answer is a lot more complicated than one would think. And so porous pavement is a little bit easier. It still has, there still are lots of requirements from a utilities perspective and from flooding perspective, but we can put it in places that we put concrete. And so we've already installed 4 miles of it, and we're hoping to install over 90 miles. So we're hoping that this becomes a very well-used thing in Brooklyn as well. Another thing, we're going to get into the regulating and real-time monitoring here, but we're also putting up flood net sensors. So these are sensors that can detect flooding in real time. This is awesome because right now, if there's flooding or surprise flooding on a block, you have to call 311. Maybe you have to call Jeremy. Maybe Jeremy calls me. You know, by the time that gets to me, hours have gone by. And so if there are hot spots in the community that already flood super frequently, we can put these sensors there and it can go to the DEP team very quickly. If you go to floodnet.nyc, you can see online where all the sensors currently are. And this is something I hope that we continue to be able to invest in as an agency to put even more around the city, because I know there are hot spots in CB7 and there are many all around the borough that could use this type of technology. Another thing I like to talk about when I go around to community boards that many folks don't know about is in 2022, we created this thing called the Unified Stormwater Rule. And so what this does is, you know, our city has a lot of new development, and that's great, but also with new development comes more water use. And it also, you know, comes more concrete that may not be necessarily absorbing stormwater. So this rule says that rezonings or development must have a plan before they're approved by the city to manage their stormwater on site. So that's things like this green roof you see there. That's a building in the city that, you know, put in this roof. It's going to collect stormwater when there's a storm, and it's going to do its part as opposed to just adding more concrete or in a worst case, exacerbating flooding. So this rule is very exciting. It's something that we have just started enforcement on and work on with the Department of Buildings. And the more community awareness and advocacy, you know, as you see buildings coming up in your community, you know, saying, you know, I wonder if they're abiding by the Unified Stormwater Rule, making sure to raise things to me and DEP. This is a community effort, but it's very exciting that it exists, and we're excited as DEP to be taking it on as a group. So now I'm going to go into the part of the presentation where I talk about what you can do if you're a homeowner. Even if you live in a home on the second or third floor, I think these are good things to know as well. And so happy to answer any questions about it after as well. We're just going to go through this quickly. So if you're a homeowner and you have a basement, it's important that the basement is set up correctly. Having exit routes are critical. So like I said earlier in the presentation, we can be talking about 0.15 inches per hour of rain can be the difference between flooding your basement or not. And there've been, you know, some very sad stories. You know, you're sleeping in the basement, you don't notice, it sounds like rain outside, and you're not able to take care of yourself or exit the basement quickly enough. So making sure there's 2 exits, making sure your bathroom fixtures aren't lower than your sewer connection. So that first graphic I showed that showed backups can go up to your personal sewer line. If your bathtub or if your sink is lower than where your sewer is connected, that's where the upshoot of sewage will go. So just making sure your sewage connection is the lowest thing in your home is important and better for if that type of incident happens. And then if you are doing any work on your basement, just being conscious of the fact if it's located much, much, much lower than the sidewalk, those types of things can exacerbate flooding. Downspouts are something that we're trying to raise awareness about. So a lot of older homes in New York City have incorrect installation of their downspouts. You want your downspouts to point away from your home. So that will keep rainwater out of the system and reduce backups in your home. And that's something that we're trying to raise awareness about for a lot of folks. 2 is a rain barrel. So connecting a rain barrel to your gutter is great for a few reasons. 1, it will collect water from a storm, so you can use this to like water plants or other things that you would use outside water for. Obviously, wouldn't drink it, but it can help gather. And if everybody's home in New York City had a rain barrel, think of how many gallons of water we would collect before it went into the sewer, before it caused sewer backups and all those kinds of things. So you can buy these at a hardware store, Home Depot, and they're a great way to collect water for yourself and help the city as well. 2 is flood sensors. So these are things you can also get in hardware stores. Let's say you sleep on the second floor, no one's in the basement. This will beep, beep, beep really loudly. When water comes in your basement, you can help get your valuables and belongings out ahead of time. Another one is flood barriers. You can fill these with water or sand and they're reusable. These are good because let's say you have a basement that's below the sidewalk level. There's nothing you can do about it. A lot of the sewer backups in rain intense storms, we're talking about 0.1, 0.5 inches an hour. So this can really be the difference between massive flooding in your house or not. And so we recommend that. And then sump pumps, you can use these to remove water. They detect rising water in real time. So if you have kind of nuisance, small flooding in your basement and you have a sump pump there, they can pump out water in real time and are very useful. So now I'm just going to go into a part of the presentation where these are things that DEP is asking of the public that you can help us do as we fight climate change and the very real reality that we're getting more and more intense storms every day. 1 is to wait to use water if there's a storm. So if there's a big storm happening, it's probably not the time to take like 5 showers, do all of your dishes and wash all of your clothes. Because if everyone does that, that puts intense pressure on our system. And as I said before, both of those water go to the same place. So waiting to use water. 2 is the city spends $18 million of your taxpayer dollars every year because people put wrong things in the toilet. So without getting into too much detail, I think this group knows what I'm talking about. We just got to put the right stuff in the toilet because it becomes a massive expenditure for the city and taxpayers of the city. 2 is conserving water. So this past November, New York City declared a drought warning for the first time in 25 years. So when I talk about climate change and intense rainstorms, that's also applicable on the drought side. And so just making sure you're saving water. Anyone who pays a water bill wants to do that anyway for themselves. But even if you don't, conserving water is very important as we enter this new climate reality. Here are a few other things if you're interested in some of the things I talked about in the presentation that may also interest you. So the Tide Alert app, which is free and I've downloaded from NOAA, tells you about rainfall that's greater than 1.5 inches an hour. It'll give you a little alert and it'll just be like, oh, this storm is more serious. Because I've noticed since having the app, I can't really tell from inside my apartment how heavy the rainfall is. And so this kind of thing helps me understand how intense the storm is. 2, if you do have a home, enrolling in the National Flood Insurance Program, which is available to every single New Yorker right now, is something we really, really recommend at DEP. They can insure you, up to $30,000, $50,000 for a flood incident, and your normal homeowners insurance doesn't have that. So we really recommend it because it can be the difference between, a life-changing expenditure or at least having something to protect you. And homes that didn't used to be in flood zones are now in flood zones, and that's going to keep happening. So I just encourage everybody, no matter where you live, it's not too far away for you to look into this. 2, this is my boss's bathtub after she got a sewer backup in Red Hook. And she found out that her homeowner insurance policy does not include a rider for a sewer backup. So that's another type of insurance that we really recommend people looking into. And then also American Water Resources Insurance for your sewer service line. And that's like $15 a month and can insure you up to what could be an expenditure of $10,000 or more. So we really recommend that one as well. Last few things here is just to sign up for Notify NYC. So I follow them on Twitter, but they'll also text you or are on your preferred social media. Sometimes they know about stuff before I do. So it's a very, very good way to find out if there's an emergency or flood-related emergency happening in your neighborhood. And this is where all of DEP's social media is located, and our information. We are here to be a resource. Jeremy knows how to contact me if he gets any questions as well. And so we just wanted to give you our information, and then happy to answer any questions. Thanks.
Any questions? Ooh. Yeah. First, we'll pass you the microphone. 1 second.
Who first? Diana, okay.
Hello, thank you for coming and congratulations on the gig. It's wonderful that you're here. You said that 60% of our sewer system is 40% isn't. Where is the dividing line? And is that for all of New York City or just for Brooklyn?
That's for all of New York City. I don't have a perfect map in my head. I know a lot about Brooklyn, so I know we have like separate sewers in Coney Island. We have some separate sewers in East New York. Almost all of Staten Island is separate sewers. So I don't have a perfect map in my brain. I do know CB7 is combined sewers, just from experience. And most of Brooklyn is combined. Like a lot of the separate, I feel, is in Staten Island and the Bronx. But Denise, you correct me if I'm wrong. That sounds right. Okay.
And I was wondering if you could elaborate a little more about the unified stormwater rule.
Yeah, so that is all permitting processes that come through us. The new developments, and it's a little bit technical more than I know. So for example, if you're like an existing development and you're not changing the amount of like rooms and floors, you may be exempt from the unified stormwater rule. If it's a vacant lot and they're building something but the ownership isn't changing, so there's a little bit of nuance that I don't know, but I will tell you, let's say you are eligible for their unified stormwater rule. So you're a new development and you don't fall in these holes that are not eligible. Your permit application comes through us, and we have a team in DEP, our green infrastructure team. You propose to us what you are going to do to mitigate your stormwater. We decide if that's enough from what we see you're going to, the plot of land you're taking from your stormwater. And then we go back and forth. And once you get the check from us, it's like getting a check from buildings or a check from fire, or like once you get the check from us, then you can go forth.
So is that for all new building developments or just ones that are going through ULURP? Is there a connection in any way between the
Yeah,
two?
I don't like, there are like differences in which new buildings are eligible, and it's a little bit above my head exactly what those are. I can definitely send that to you, Jeremy, because that's like public information. So I'll send that to the committee, and you can distribute it.
Okay, and then in all of the research that you do you ever kind of cross-reference the presence of brownfields with, groundwater flooding?
I'm not sure. I can
Okay.
check on that. Yeah, I can check on that and get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is a broader question. What else does DEP do besides flood mitigation? Can you kind of give us a broader overview of the agency you represent?
Yes, so we do, I think the biggest buckets, the way I like to describe it, is water, air, and noise. So we do enforce the city's air code and the city's noise code. And for noise, I like to describe it like if it's neighbor to neighbor noise, like it's like there's a party next door, that goes to the NYPD still, and that's not considered like noise pollution for our purposes. But if there is construction that is noisy and they haven't put in noise mitigation efforts like they're supposed to, we could issue them a violation. If there is a restaurant or bar that is operating material, whether that be like a generator or a DJ stand or something that violates the noise code, we can issue a noise violation. And then for the air code, it's similar. So we can issue violations to businesses if there's a restaurant that's operating some sort of machinery or technology in their restaurant that's releasing dust, pollutants, et cetera, that they're not supposed to, we can issue violations and penalties for that. Then within the water, we do some stormwater management, as you guys have seen through the presentation, with green infrastructure and just working with the EPA and the DEC on what the future of stormwater management means. And then wastewater, like literally the sewers. We collect water bills, so we're the water utility. And I think I covered all. Do you think I covered all there's some, and asbestos. Okay, yeah, also asbestos permitting. So we have 6,000 employees. New York City's water comes from the Catskills. People work all over New York State. We have a police force that helps protect our water. So it's a massive agency, but I think that covers most of the stuff.
You don't do anything about ground pollution,
What do you mean by ground pollution?
like pollutants in the soil.
What'd you say? It's mostly DEC, yeah.
Sure.
But I mean, like all these interesting things come across my desk. Like we're installing catch basins in the Jewel Streets neighborhood in East New York, and we found contaminants in the soil. And so as we install the catch basins, we have to put new soil in there. We're not going to take out contaminated soil and put it back. But I think Denise is right in terms of who regulates that. That's probably the state. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hi, I want to thank you also. Very, very good. There was a time before COVID that the department was going to put bioswales under around it, redesign the tree pits to become rain gardens and put bioswales underneath that would release the water, would capture all the water and would release the water Is that still in effect?
Got it. I'll have to check. I mean, we have a map of where we're installing all rain gardens, and they're trying to install a bunch all over the city. So I'll just have to check on the stat. I don't know off the top of my head, but I can.
They have done a number of them in the eastern part of Sunset Park, 40th, 41st, 42nd, 43rd Street, from about 6th Avenue to 8th.
And that's as far as it went?
In this neighborhood, there are other neighborhoods that are getting it as well.
Well,
That's been what has been done. There are other things being planned.
so it is still in effect?
The last I heard, it was still being planned for. I don't have any
Planned.
date on it.
Okay,
I'll
you'll-
check. I'll
you'll
check
get-
on the plans.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll check on. But thank you. for
Not,
me-
not only Sunset Park, you have to check also Windsor Terrace, because that is part of CB7.
100% understood.
That's District 39.
Got it. Thank you.
Hello, thank you. This might be a silly question, but in terms of like flushing things down the toilet, is hair okay?
We say that of the 4 Ps: poop, pee, puke, and toilet paper. So that is the official DEP statement on what should go in the toilet. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, we have it like written, right? We have it written on things. It's like the 4 Ps. But I wondered the same thing as like a person with lots of hair, and I don't do that anymore after this, like after being in this job and like telling people this. But it's not obvious.
I won't do it anymore. And I don't know if this is a question directed to here, but I'm curious also like with the tips in terms of like what residents can do and homeowners can do for to help with like floods. I'm curious if there's any outreach towards landlords about this, and also like if there's any city reimbursement or like giving out things in like during bad floods, essentially.
Yeah, someone asked me at a community board a week or 2 ago, like everyone who get like we could like reimburse people every time they get a rain barrel, or we could like give people credit every time. So there's nothing like that. So all the things I mentioned there, there's no system like that as of now. Look, I deal with landlords all the time. I deal with renters who the landlord isn't doing something, and then it's becoming a flooding issue or concern. We're not exempt from the difficulty of that dynamic. But we certainly reach out and engage with property owners constantly. Like anybody who pays a water bill, who isn't an owner of a building, like has to engage with DEP, and we, try to keep up to best practices of what that is. But a lot of this job, I'm the first. There never used to be a borough commissioner before me. Like a lot of this role is like we got to do better engaging with the public on this, because we're never gonna get the 8 million people to cooperate and all do the same thing. Like it's such a team effort when we talk about flooding. So it's a good point. It's a good question. It's something that I hope to really improve, at least in Brooklyn.
Was there anything put in the budget to expand piping and the sewer, the catch basins for because that would, if that was started and continued, then the problem will be partly alleviated. Do you know if anything has been?
So there's like I said, there's $9 billion to upgrade the sewers. I work with CB7 and the elected officials to advocate for this neighborhood, to make sure that there's projects included to upgrade the sewers in this neighborhood. I don't have all of them off the top of my head right now. I know we did a lot on 4th Avenue, but we have to continue like raising the issues that are problem areas. Like I tell people this all the time. Like I know 311 feels like calling into a void, but 311 informs our catch basin cleaning schedule, a lot of it. So it's not like those calls don't matter, and they're not informing city decisions and resource allocation. So I don't have off the top of my head all the sewer upgrades planned for CB7. But there's 9 billion citywide. A lot of it is in Brooklyn. And, I'm very well aware of the flooding issues in this neighborhood. I'm here like once a month, working with constituents or the elected officials out here. So, your comment is well taken.
Thank you.
As people won't hear you on Zoom.
Okay. So I just have one question. You were mentioning the green infrastructure medians, and they're doing construction along the median of 4th Avenue. Is that green infrastructure, or is that just they're fixing the median?
I have to check. They're doing some pedestrian safety improvements. We're doing the sewer, and it's all with DDC now. So I will check if it's a GI. I haven't heard of it being median related.
I don't believe it's considered green infrastructure.
What a shame. What a lost opportunity. They're rebuilding that whole median.
I'm just happy they rebuilt it after 25 years.
And when there's interagency work,
The original budget.
when there's interagency work, it becomes complicated, right? So like, I don't know what DOT's pedestrian safety rules are, and I don't know how that interacts with green infrastructure, and I don't know how that interacts with the new sewer. And like I tell you, as a new employee to city government, it has been a process for me to learn that, but that could be part of it.
So since I have the microphone, so you said that the Brooklyn Borough Commissioner, that's a new position and you're the first one. So up until now, there has not been one. And it sounds like, from what I'm hearing from you, that your intention is to be accessible. Okay. I don't want to get into the details of my situation, but because it's just not relevant.
I'll give you my card, and you
I
can
would
email me.
really, really appreciate.
Yeah, you can email me, and I'll give you my card after this. Yeah.
So let me just say the project on 4th Avenue was budgeted for and predated the city's green infrastructure plans. So that's been in process since before the city even considered green infrastructure.
Okay. Good evening. Thank you for the presentation. It's great. Congratulations on your position. I like to hear it. So again, just asking DEP and urging the city agency to expand its green infrastructure program in Sunset Park throughout Community Board 7. If you go to the DEP's website with the green infrastructure map and you compare Sunset Park to other neighborhoods throughout Brooklyn, it's really sad. There's only 5 like points listed on the map. And so if you zoom out and look at all of Brooklyn and Queens, it's like projects everywhere. And then for Sunset Park, it's like 5. And a lot of those are gardens that are associated with the schools. So they're actually not, I'm not saying they're not accessible to the public, but if it's at an elementary school, like I'm not benefiting. Well, you know what I'm trying to say. Like I can't go in there and be a part of the school garden. And then also, you know, all of this is obviously a climate and environmental issue. If you look outside, I'm plugging an event. This isn't a question. If you look outside right now, there's wildfire smoke impacting us again from Canada. So there's an air quality alert. I'm sure if you are signed up for Notify NYC or if you've been looking at the weather, you know. So Uprose is hosting a climate and environmental justice debate between the 2 city council members that are running on Friday at Trinity Lutheran from 6 to 8 p.m. So please come. And also, thank you.
Oh, no worries. Just to address your first point, I don't know the specifics of Sunset Park, but I was just in like Coney Island. They really want green infrastructure. I did a lot of investigating about it, and their like water table is too high, and that's like why. And it's not like they don't want to build. It's like the water table is too high, and like in order to have sewers, utilities, and GI, it wouldn't work. So I will like look up what Sunset Park is. If it is as stark as you describe, and we do have it in Windsor Terrace and not Sunset Park, my feeling is it has something to do with the coastal proximity of it, or also how high Sunset Park or low Sunset Park is compared to other neighborhoods. But I will check. Yeah, and I'll let you know. Yeah.
Jeremy, your question?
So you know me, I'm full of questions. I wanted to start with infrastructure since Sandy, New York City has planned for, has been building, and has spent billions of dollars protecting Manhattan from flooding. What similar investments are being made in other parts of the city?
Coastal flooding or flooding in general? So the Red Hook Coastal Resiliency Project is the current thing that I'm involved in. That is very actively ongoing. I share your energy to, and your energy and urgency to bring resources to Brooklyn's coastal flooding problems. Specifically, you know, a lot in East New York, a lot in Canarsie, Sunset Park, Greenpoint, and those communities along Newtown Creek. But the Red Hook Coastal Resiliency Project is currently being worked on by the Bureau of Coastal Resilience, which is in DEP. So I can speak to that one, but that's it.
I will just say 100% of Manhattan is being protected or planned for protection. I live in Mill Basin, 1 block from the ocean. There is nothing happening there. But speaking of protection for the communities and spending on infrastructure in the communities, Fifth Avenue, we have been in the 10-year capital plan for new sewers and water infrastructure since 1988. I don't know what the 10-year capital plan means. First Avenue, which all the water from our sewers goes down to First Avenue because we're on a hill, and then goes to the Owl's Head Sewer Treatment Plant. It's over 100 years old, that pipe. It does not have capacity for what we need today. And because of that, we have what's called combined sewer overflows in this district, including one in our waterfront park, where sewage goes right into our harbor. That is an investment the city can make. The city could also increase, again, the capacity of that First Avenue sewer, which was supposed to be done in 2005. The projects are here. There is no funding, but there's billions of dollars of funding for Manhattan, is my point.
I looked at, oh, sorry, you go.
Oh, so I'll let you, I'm going on to some other things, so I'll let you.
You brought up Fifth Avenue to me before. I've been unsuccessful finding this information on it, but I'm continuing to hopefully talk to the right engineers and the people who have the institutional memory, because it's been tough for me to find the Fifth Avenue info. It's the first I'm hearing about First. I'll look into First Avenue.
That was supposed to be 2005.
Okay, that's a little more recent, so maybe I'll have more luck there. And then yeah, no, I mean I do not disagree about Brooklyn needing money. That I will always agree with.
Mentioned the three kinds of flooding.
Groundwater, stormwater, coastal.
Right.
Mhm.
That's usually in low-lying areas, but we have some unusual flooding in this community in that Windsor Terrace, one of the highest points in Brooklyn, often has flooding when there's high, thank you.
Yeah. Proximity to parks and green areas too can be a separate type of flooding.
That be considered porous land, though?
Wouldn't agree. Well, so we have the Blue Belts program, which we're rolling out, which is we've done really well in Staten Island, and we're trying to do in Prospect Park, which would take existing lakes and try to make them bigger areas that can manage stormwater. But just because something's green doesn't mean it's not, susceptible or part of the broader flooding ecosystem. So like Prospect Park, Prospect Lefferts Gardens, we get a lot of flooding complaints from those neighborhoods in those areas, and we work closely with Prospect Park Alliance to increase the amount of stormwater the park can handle.
That would be very helpful for the folks in Windsor Terrace. So, and
Right.
that's all over Brooklyn in Sunset as well. If we didn't capture that on Zoom, Diana spoke about underground creek beds. With regard to porous pavement, you and I took a walk on 37th Street where the street was undermined by water. How do you prevent the water from porous pavement from undermining street or?
So the porous pavement water has to get emptied or vacuumed. So there's a process in upkeeping porous pavement. Like, I'm not super knowledgeable on the whole steps, but you'll have to go back to it, like clearing a trash can or having regular maintenance. So it will have to be regular maintenance. It's not like it just sits there. Someone will have to come after a storm and go back through the porous pavement.
With regard to water gardens, you said they're nice to look at. And I
Rain
agree.
garden.
Rain garden,
Yeah.
excuse me. I agree with that. At least at first.
Yeah.
Question is, who maintains them?
So rain gardens are maintained by DEP. We have 10,000 citywide, and we don't have enough staff to do it as regularly as we would like. Educating the community that these are not trash cans, and that in order for them to function properly, they need to, be allowed to flourish the way plants and and a tree bed or anything on the side of the road would. So we're the agency that's mainly responsible. Sometimes we get help from sanitation because they're very kind, but it's not their job. And sometimes we get help from parks if there's a tree in it, but it's also not their job. But the staffing and regularly maintaining rain gardens is definitely a struggle.
I bring this up because I'm not sure the staff has the expertise, and perhaps they do. I know from our experience with DOT, which maintains some of the medians on Second Avenue, for example, where we complained to them about it being overgrown with weeds, and the contractors that they hired had no idea which were the weeds and which were not, so they cut down all the plants. So I want to make sure that whoever does it, whoever's being hired has the expertise when it comes to that.
Yeah, our issue isn't that we everyone who works in-house on the GI team is acutely aware of the different types of plants we have versus shrubs versus green stem versus soft stem versus hard stem. So I don't think that will happen. It's just that we could definitely use more people so that we can hit all the areas where rain gardens exist and clean them up more frequently than we do.
I want to point out, I have not gotten a complaint about a rain garden.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know that's not,
But
this is a different community board.
no, about
Yeah.
cleanliness of them.
Yeah.
That might be because we don't have that many yet.
Yeah, that's probably why.
And then the last thing you had said about raising awareness about downspouts. State DOT needs to be made aware of what downspouts should be. They cut the downspouts from the Gowanus Expressway over 50 years ago. They now drain directly into Third Avenue, into areas that do not have catch basins. So they're just creating flooding on Third Avenue, undermining the pedestrian areas and creating large flooding areas in pedestrian walkways that force people to walk into traffic. Is there anything that we could do to force the state to create real?
What downspouts is the state DOT maintaining? Downspouts for what?
Gowanus Expressway. All the water that falls on the expressway goes into catch basins, drains directly onto Third Avenue, not into the sewer. And the way Third Avenue is set up, it's like a hump. So it drains back towards the median where there are no catch basins.
I see. Let's talk about it more. I don't know enough about the ergonomics of Third Avenue, but
A long time problem, and it undermines the roadway and pedestrian areas. Well, it's all of Third Avenue. 60th Street is probably the most important crossing point. 60th Street's the most important crossing point because there's 4 schools on those corners.
Could you just clarify the porous concrete? You were saying the water has to then be picked up?
yeah, I don't know. I can get Jeremy a paragraph on it, but yeah, no, we were just talking about there's been a lot of issue. 37th Street has a history of DEP related issues related to the sewer and flooding more broadly.
With the street and sidewalk being undermined by water. So I was just using it as an example. Between 4th and 5th particularly.
It's like it doesn't just hold water and stay there. Like someone has to go back out, clean the pavement, take the water out so it can receive more. So I don't have all the details about how that process works, but I know that it requires upkeep.
Any further questions? Anything else?
Thank you guys. I hope to be back. I hope to come back and present, and I appreciate your questions. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Drasana. I'm so sorry. I don't think we have anything else on the agenda. We had a cancellation from our next presentation, so that'll be in another upcoming meeting. So stay tuned, everyone. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your questions. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was wonderful.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. Thank you, Jeremy.